Welcome to another story written by Oracle 1. The Compass That Lied. Episode 1. North is not a direction. The compass needle spun the moment Captain Ilra Vance touched the jungle's edge. Not a gentle wobble. Not a hesitant drift. It spun like it was screaming. Ilra froze, boot half buried in loam, and stared down at the brass instrument cradled in her palm. The glass face vibrated faintly, humming with a sound too low to hear but sharp enough to feel behind her eyes. The needle blurred into a circle of silver. Behind her, the crew of the Wayward Star waited in uneasy silence. "That's not normal," muttered Jax Fenro, her first mate, tightening his grip on the machetes slung at his side. "Even cursed artifacts usually pick a direction eventually." Ilra didn't look back. Her gaze was fixed on the jungle before them. It shouldn't have been there. The charts were clear, painstakingly so. The Wayward Star had sailed these waters before, mapped the coastline rock by rock, reef by reef. According to every known map, this stretch of land was a narrow crescent of scrub and stone, barely enough soil for grass, let alone towering trees. Yet before them rose a wall of green so dense it swallowed the horizon. Massive trunks twisted upward, their bark dark and ridged like petrified muscle. Vines hung in curtains, some thick as ropes, others fine as hair, swaying though there was no wind. Leaves the size of sails overlapped in layers, blotting out the sky. The air was heavy, wet, and warm, carrying the scent of rot and blossoms at once. A jungle, on an island that should not have been able to support one. Ilra closed the compass lid with a snap, cutting off the spinning needle, and slipped it into her coat pocket. The humming faded, but the unease did not. "Last chance," Jax said quietly. "We turn back now, we lose time and pride. We go forward, and we find what the compass wants us to find," Ilra finished. She stepped fully onto the island. The moment her second foot touched the soil, the jungle shifted. Not dramatically. No crashing branches or snapping vines. Just a subtle, collective adjustment, as though the forest had leaned closer to listen. Behind her, the crew followed. The compass had come into Illyra's possession 3 weeks earlier, in a port city that smelled of salt, spice, and desperation. She hadn't been looking for it. She'd been looking for a map. Instead, she found an old woman sitting cross-legged on a crate, her back bent like a question mark, her eyes clouded but sharp. "You're lost," the woman had said as Ilra passed. "I know where I am," Ilra replied without stopping. The woman chuckled. "That's not the same thing." Something in the tone made Ilra pause. She turned back. The compass lay on the crate between them, brass dulled by age, etched with symbols that refused to settle into meaning. The needle rested perfectly still, pointing not north, but slightly off, just enough to unsettle anyone who knew how compasses worked. "What's wrong with it?" Ilra had asked. The woman smiled, revealing teeth worn nearly flat. "Nothing," Ilra snorted. "Then why are you selling it?" "I'm not," the woman said. "I'm giving it away." That should have been the end of the conversation. Instead, Ilra reached out. The moment her fingers closed around the compass, the needle jumped. Not north, not south, sideways. The woman's smile widened. "It likes you." "Likes me how?" "Enough to lie." The jungle swallowed sound. Within minutes of entering, the surf faded, then vanished entirely. Bird calls echoed strangely, overlapping in ways that made it impossible to judge distance. The air clung to skin, heavy and intimate. Kesh, the ship's navigator, adjusted the spectacles perched on his narrow nose and frowned at his own compass. "Mine's broken," he said. Jax glanced over. "Let me see." Kesh held it out. The needle twitched uselessly, spinning once before settling in a random direction. "That's not north," Jax said flatly. "None of them are," Kesh replied. Ilra pulled out the cursed compass. The needle had stopped spinning. It pointed deeper into the jungle. Of course it did. Captain, Jack said carefully, you're thinking the same thing I am, aren't you? That this island shouldn't exist? Ilra asked. That it knows we're here. She didn't answer. They pushed on. The terrain changed subtly as they walked. The ground sloped upward, though the island had been charted as flat. Roots snaked across the path like coiled serpents. Strange stone outcroppings emerged from the soil, too smooth, too symmetrical to be natural. Ruins. Old ones. A toppled pillar lay half swallowed by moss, its surface carved with spiraling motifs that made Illyra's eyes ache if she stared too long. Nearby, fragments of walls rose at odd angles, as though the ground itself had tried to reject them. This place wasn't always jungle, Kesh murmured, running his fingers over the stone. These structures predate the growth. By centuries, at least. Civilization doesn't just vanish, Jack said. Ilra glanced at the compass. The needle pulsed faintly, as though in agreement. Oh, she said softly. It does. They made camp at dusk, though the sky above the canopy never truly darkened. A dim, greenish light filtered through the leaves, giving everything the appearance of an underwater dream. No one slept well. Ilra dreamed of maps that bled when she unfolded them, of directions that twisted away when she tried to follow them. She woke with the compass warm against her chest, humming like a satisfied thing. At dawn, or what passed for it, the jungle changed again. The path they'd entered by was gone. Behind them, where there should have been trampled undergrowth and broken vines, the forest stood pristine and untouched. Jack swore softly. Kesh spun in a slow circle, panic creeping into his voice. That's impossible. We marked the trees. We cut. The compass needle swung. Straight ahead. Ilra swallowed. Forward, she said. They followed. The air thinned as they climbed, though no mountain rose beneath their feet. The ground sloped upward, yes, but subtly, almost imperceptibly, as though the island itself were stretching. Then the trees began to thin. Light, real light, broke through the canopy ahead. The jungle opened onto a vast stone platform, cracked and overgrown but unmistakably constructed. At its center stood a circular dais etched with the same spiraling symbols as the ruins below. Beyond it, the sky fell away. The crew staggered to the edge. Below them lay clouds, endless and rolling, lit gold and white by a sun they could not see from the jungle floor. The island did not slope down into sea. It ended, and above the clouds, shapes drifted, massive silhouettes, half hidden by mist. Towers, arches, entire structures floating as though gravity had simply forgotten them. Ruins in the sky. Kesh sank to his knees, laughing breathlessly. This isn't possible. Ilra didn't move. The compass burned in her hand. The needle lifted, slowly, deliberately, and pointed straight up. The dais began to glow. The air trembled, and somewhere above the clouds, something ancient turned its attention downward, as though the compass had finally led its chosen exactly where it wanted them. For more stories, like and subscribe.